I thought we were still not broadcasting. So I will introduce myself. I am Sciortino, the director of SEAJunction, and SEAJunction is a public venue based in Bangkok, focusing on Southeast Asia. We have given attention to Myanmar because we think that is crucial for the entire region, not only for the people of Myanmar. In the hope of democracy in Myanmar, there is also hope for democracy in many other neighboring countries. We are very glad to have again Aung Zaw, the director and founder of Irrawaddy, one of the main media focusing on Myanmar. He was also the first speaker of the updates. So he did the very first 3 updates. We start very close to the coup, and we have been able to be consistent and arrive today is the 44th episode of this monthly update that tried to give an overview of what is happening in the last month. As usual, the speaker, the resource person, will have about 20-25 minutes, and then we will have questions and comments from the audience, both on Zoom as well as Facebook. And we are very glad that we can broadcast not only with Mizzima, which has been our partner before, but also with the Irrawaddy. So today we have really a lot of media attention. Please, Aung Zaw, you can proceed.
Thank you very much, Leah, having me again. As you mentioned in your remark that we have covered Myanmar issue right after the coup. So I'm glad to be back here in this discussion. Also, thank you for those who are watching us. And I would like to start kicking the floor to kickstart the updating the new development in Burma or Myanmar. So I will prefer to call it Burma rather than Myanmar. So I will, throughout the session, I will use the country names Burma. Thank you. Oh, thank you for having me. So we were talking about, when we talk about Burma, when we want to talk about the military, which is the most powerful institution in our country. We always talk about the military will not collapse, and we will maintain its stability and a law and order in our country. And since the coup, if you look at the Western observer and regional analyst, and as well as the Burmese living outside or inside, we're very doubtful that of whether this the speed and the momentum of the revolution will sustain. But surprisingly, now we're talking about the consistency and the keeping the momentum alive after almost we are coming into the 4 years time. That still the generals are still trying to control the country, where they're losing more and more territories. That's very interesting to myself, to the surprise of ourselves, that a lot of Western analysts and then they would say that military will eventually prevailed, but opposite turned out to be the completely opposite. Whether militaries too big to fail, or whether military will be able to control and contain the revolution and this ongoing civil war. So I think let me start to say that go to the northern Shan state, where they are currently we have seen that the 1027 Operation 1027 phase 2, which is the fall of the Northeastern Command and the Lasho, the biggest northern capital or city, fell under the opposition forces and EAO, ethnic and organizations, MNDAA mainly, also joined by the other forces, including the TNLA and PDF, a smaller faction. So that's surprising. And also there's a biggest blow to the regime that is one of the most important, strategically important position and location where they face China and where they had gone through for the last 50 years since the establishment of that command. deter the threat from the insurgents. So which is now it fell under the opposition forces. Second is then after the fall of the Lashu and Northeast Command, it comes to the Mandalay. Mandalay is the second largest city, as you know, at historical town, and now it's coming under the military threat. Right after the fall of Lashu, we saw that fighting, ambushes, and skirmishes taking place around the encircle of the northern part of Mandalay capital, Mandalay city, which is, for instance, in a single township, which is about only 1 hour drive away from Mandalay. So, and the Beijing, all the other areas. And one of the areas, township is known as the Dagong, which is, they have a Chinese nickel mine factory. So the Chinese projects, smaller Chinese and bigger Chinese projects also come under the control of the opposition and other EAO forces, which is also very interesting to see that. So then I will move to Kachin State. In the Kachin, I will move to the Mandalay, around Mandalay area, because since Mandalay became under the threat, but the coup leader, the war criminals, General Mao flew to Donggu, which is where also they started having in central Burma, which is started facing the threat from the Karen rebel groups. Then he later traveled to Mandalay, where in the newspaper you will see he was visiting temples and the pagodas and the monasteries. In fact, he went to these 2 strategic towns to oversee the military operation, because the regime is digging in. They are really preparing to defend all those cities, because of which is coming under the military threat from the opposition sources, opposition sides. So that is quite important. And as I will jump to Kachin State, where we've seen the last 2 years, the KIA, Kachin Independence Army, have been launching offensive, but quietly. They don't do a lot of public relations or media exploration, but they've been quietly taking over the strategic and military outposts. Over 20 or 30 have been fallen under the KIA. Now, recently, the Burma, one of the biggest townships in Kachin State, fell under the KIA. So this is a new development in Kachin State. Then from Kachin State, let me jump to the other side and western part of the Burma or Myanmar, which is Arakan State. So currently we see the Maungdaw area, and AA Arakan Army is making a move to take over the Maungdaw, but there are a lot of clashes being taking place. For the last 2 or 3 months, we've seen it. And IA declared that they will take over the whole Arakan State in the coming near future, which is maybe likely to happen. So then recent development is in the Gua Township, in the southernmost part of Arakan State, where AA has taken that township. What is important is that town is very close to the gateway to the Irrawaddy Delta, which is we haven't seen any fighting yet. So, but I think we may be started seeing some kind of engagement from 2 sides, PDF and AA and jointly together launching operation in Irrawaddy Delta area. So these are all the new development. 3 years ago, we talked about, too big to fail, military will eventually win. But today, what we have seen is the military losing strategic outposts and the townships. At least, I think 79 towns or townships are under the control of the opposition forces and EAO, which is quite amazing, surprising to see that. But because later when we talk about covering the Burma issue 3 years ago, these the PDF or EAO started fighting back, pushing back, but today they seem to be very confident, and the spirit is very high, and military is losing, and they deserted. You can see that even the mid-ranking military general level or colonel levels, they are all ready to surrender or raise a white flag in many areas where they have engaged with the EU and joint forces. So this is a new development. I would like to update with the audience and then with you. And then lastly, what I want to say is mention is that the China factor. And on August 14, we saw that Chinese foreign minister, the top diplomat, member of political bureau, and he flew into Naypyidaw and met with General Min Aung Hlaing and his team. And what was interesting is Wang Yi in the past did not meet Min Aung Hlaing for the last 3 years, 4 years. There were a lot of speculation that China wanted to meet the detained state councillor Daw San Suu Kyi and being refused, and then China was not happy with Min Aung Hlaing and his leadership, and he couldn't control the country, and we all cover all this, and Western press, and including the Irrawaddy. But this time, seems to me, when he himself flew to Naypyidaw and talked to Min Aung Hlaing, and a lot of analysis, making a lot of speculative comments. But I think that there are messages that when he told Burmese leadership that we want you to safeguard and protect the China interest in Chinese business in Burma, as well as to safeguard and protect our workers, our employees. And also to contain the anti-China sentiment, which is very important, not only among the Myanmar people or Burmese people, but also in the DNA of the Myanmar military. I think they are always suspicious of Chinese and China involvement in terms of supplying, giving political support, military support to the northern forces. So I think when you met Min Aung Hlaing, he talked about China. He said China would not accept or any kind of smear campaign or harm the bilateral ties to smear China, which is directly, I think a lot of people interpreted that as Wang Yi giving warning to Min Aung Hlaing himself. Why? Because of last month or 2 months ago, you will see that since the fall of the northern townships, and particularly on Latt, there are systematic and state-organized regime-sponsored anti-China rallies and protests taking place in Burma, even in front of the Chinese embassies. They were all believed to be organized and supported by the regime. So Min Aung Hlaing himself, the military itself is anti-China, and then instigating the anti-China, sentiment in the country. And even in their propaganda machine, the Telegram, other social media, they call this attack, the Operation 1027 Phase 2 as invasion, even though they don't say that it was Chinese. But Burmese military propaganda machine running again and again to suggest that this operation is instigated and financed or even supported by China. So I think Wang Yi's message was very strong to say that we will not accept any kind of smear or anti-China campaign. So that is important. So third is that, as usual, he said, we want to maintain the peace and stability on the border. In return, Min Aung Hlaing promised to protect the Chinese interest and safeguard the Chinese employees. And a week later, after Wang Yi went back, and then Min Aung Hlaing met with the newly appointed Chinese ambassador. And when he met her, we saw two different front page headlines. One is in English. The English is said, in a state-run newspaper, it said, China and Myanmar to boost the defense collaboration. Wow, that is very interesting to us to read it. Is it China, Myanmar to boost the defense collaboration? But when you read in the Burmese version of the new letter of Myanmar, you saw only that Chinese ambassador giving presenting credentials to the General Min Aung Hlaing. So I think after that, what happened was more interesting because of Chinese came back to put more pressure on northern forces, especially on Wa and Gogan. Because of Wa and Gogan, as you know, they are all based along the China border. And the Chinese special envoy, Deng Xijun, I think visited that area this week and met with the top leaders from Wa, also as well as from Kachin, and then to encourage them to come back to the ceasefire table and to talk about peace again with the regime, and also to the asking Wa leaders not to supply fuels and rice and any kind of logistic materials to the other forces, I mean, including TNLA. So I think China is now trying to put the pressure on the ERO again, which is obviously Myanmar and the regime will be very pleased to see that, you know, they are again putting pressure on the EAO, like in the 1027 phase 1, because of the phase 1 was gaining the momentum before they reached to Laos at the time last year. That China pulled the plug to say that no, we don't want you to continue fighting, stop fighting and come to the table. They grab them, and the Burmese come, and then they signed a pact and ceasefire talk, had a ceasefire talk, but eventually it failed. So this time again, I think Chinese are doing the same, I think, dose of strategy or method to stop the fighting. You know, that's quite interesting to me. I mean, this is the most important, I think, development I've seen in last month, apart from ongoing, you know, crisis in the economy and other parts of the country. But my point is that a regime is not going to go away quickly, but opposition forces, including the EAO and the PDF, are going strong, particularly in the Mandalay region. It's not EAO, but also the MTY and PDF, Mandalay PDF. They seems to perform very well militarily, quite impressive, and also the public support is continue to be strong in spite of difficulties and challenges at home they have faced under this military government and military regime. And so I think that these are the new developments I would like to share with you all. If you have a question, I will be happy to answer. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you very much. I think this is indeed, you are already signaling the most important features of the last month. We have many questions, but on this and related argument. So I will start with few, and then we will do a second round. The first round, one concern the situation in Arakan state, Northern Arakan. As you know, there have been quite some concern. I am summarizing the question here. There have been some concern about the way the Rohingya again are becoming the victims of conflict on both sides of the spectrum, but also concern about the way the Arakan army is treating. There have been activists who have signaled the risk again of genocide and other concern of abuse. What you think about this, and is the way the activists are engaging a good way, or it will provoke adverse effects in engagement with the Arakan army? How to ensure the Arakan army does not commit human rights abuse towards the Rohingya? How to protect the Rohingya in this situation? So this is one group of questions. There are many, but I have summarized them. The second one is about Thailand. What you expect from the new government of Thailand? I am sure you like this question. Yeah, this is one of the questions. Maybe you can also elaborate about the move from Myanmar to Thailand. What are the flaws? And you're still laughing about the government. Okay, this is also about the issue of
Well,
people. Wait. Fleeing conflict from Myanmar. We know many are coming to Thailand. What can you say about this? Well,
I think
okay.
the second question is very interesting because I lived here, we live here. Thailand is becoming a heaven for Burmese. It wouldn't matter whether you were with the regime or pro-regime, anti-regime. It don't matter anymore. Burmese, rich Burmese and poor Burmese refugee. I use the term Burmese refugees. In a, you know, to describe the situation that the rich Burmese refugees, poor Burmese refugees, millions of them have been moving into to Thailand since the military coup, and that this is the first wave. Second wave is that after the draft law being introduced by the regime in early February this year, then second wave of people, mostly young people who don't want to be recruited or serve in the army, they have come to Thailand. Even my relatives moved to Thailand and looking for, you know, jobs and other opportunities to Thailand. So this is quite interesting. Anyway, I don't want to dwell into Thailand question. Now we'll go back to the first question on situation in Arakan State. Thank you for the questions. I think it's very important questions. And then first of all, I want to say that in 2017, it was the military regime that is committed the genocides and a massacre. That as a result, hundreds of thousands of people fled and so many people's lives were lost. It is a regime that committed genocides. And this time, again, it was a regime. And if you look at the news, that they are the one who recruited and established the so-called Pusoti. The name is called the militia, pro-regime militia groups. They even recruited over at least 1,000 or 2,000 Rohingya people to serve in this Pusoti militia and to attack to repel or to counter the AA offensive. So that is the fact. Then we started hearing and reporting the stories and news of AA dropping bombs and attacking the Rohingya civilians and committing the crimes. And so these are the accusation and some hard evidence also slowly coming out of Rakhine states. So at the same time, he also claimed that they've been they're trying to rescue and save the Rohingya civilians. So these are a lot of conflicting reports. As a media person, we are very, very careful, extremely careful, not like the other campaign groups or activists to say this and that in a very expressive way, because we have to be very careful of this sensitive situation to report from the two sides. So it's very complex and more complex because of the regime are using some Rohingya civilians as well as collaborating with the a small militant group known as ASA, and because of to propel to counter the AA threat. So I think these are a lot of allegations, but there are also a lot of hard evidence that both the SAC regimes and as well as the AA are involved in civilian casualties. That's all I can say now, but I'm not sure what is really happening on the ground are reflected in what we are hearing from the several reports.
Okay, should we go back to Thailand?
Yeah.
We didn't finish what you expect from the Thai government.
Yeah, and also I would like to say that I will be meeting, maybe even having an interview with the Arakan Army leadership in the near future. I will be pressing this particular issue because of Rohingya civilians, again, the victims of these conflicts. And so I will be making sure to hard press and get the facts out of these AA leadership to answer the question, to be accountable. So this is my response. So Thailand is a very fascinating story because of, you know, this is a country. Is why Thailand? Because Thailand is very convenient. Whether Thailand has a democracy, you tell me. You know, it's not about that. It's a lot of Burmese come here, lived here, and even in city that in Chiang Mai, I stay here. We stay here. We operate here from northern part of Chiang Mai, where used to be in the past. Our first life in Asia is more like a collective, you know, like only, you know, anti-regime people, organization, or a media or NGO or INGO live and operate here. But after the coup, I call it second life in Asia. So this time is a lot of people left, including military personnel, the families, and businessmen and tycoons. They are coming to Thailand and lived here. The good news, Thailand, is that for Thai people is that Thais are very happy. I'm surprised to see that a lot of Burmese are buying up condominiums. And then I think in the last quarter, I think Burmese are second or third in terms of buying condominiums in Chonburi area and in Bangkok, even in the Chiang Mai area. They're buying up condos. So it boosts the Thai economy. Thais are very happy to have, I think, skilled laborers, as well as the rich Burmese buying up, you know, properties, investing. Even in Chiang Mai, we saw the news that some Burmese small tycoon, mid-range tycoons are opening hotels, 3-star, 4-star hotels in Chiang Mai. So this is, Thais are happy with that. The one in 1988, when we came, we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. So we have much more hostile environment. But this time seems to me that very mixed group of people arrived and come here, still keep coming here to Thailand. Not only the refugees or displaced persons or rebels or the Three Fingers groups, which is the CDM and all these groups, they are not just coming here alone, but a lot of you know, business tycoons and with the one foot in, one foot out strategy, even the rich tycoons are quietly moving here. They're moving their property, they're moving their assets, they're moving the money to Thai banks because Singapore become much more, you know, not very accommodating to them. So they move into Thailand. Thais are pretty happy with, I think, happy with the Burmese moving in. But underneath, but there are a lot of challenges and a lot of issues because of, you know, it's not really, Thailand is a refugee-friendly country. But also Thailand needs labor. Thailand is facing a labor shortage. And they're happy to have a Burmese migrant coming to work in many sectors in Thailand. But as well as they're very worried about, you know, the Burmese political groups may try and instigate something here or getting too close to some radical or some progressive Thai groups in Thailand. That's maybe the reason that Thai authorities are also worried. But what is interesting is the former Move Forward Party. I think one of the most progressive politicians groups that we've seen in the last, you know, 3-4 years. They have actively engaged with the Burmese groups. They talk a lot about Burma issue, which is very interesting. They seem to be quite reliable group to voice on behalf of the Burmese people to change the policy, the foreign policy of the past governments. I mean the Prayut as well as the Seta Tawisin government. So these are the things that I saw that quite remarkable. Even though MFE is gone, but I think we saw that there's some kind of really collaboration between the Burmese groups here and also the MFE. But I don't know about this current government, which is just came into power. But last year, this year, we saw former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra trying to, negotiate or help to mediate and peace in Burma, because he knows and he knew some generals and some Burmese tycoons and ethnic leaders. He thought he could help, but there was very little endorsement from the Burmese groups for Thaksin to mediate in this in the Burma peace process. But it's quite interesting that because of Burmese military also, they liked the Thaksin Shinawatra in the past. I mean, they still have a good connection. If Burmese regime knows how to manipulate and how to use his office now, then we might see some kind of movement. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm saying I rather not to say good, but I think there will be some kind of movement we might see. But stay too early to say. But also about the Thai military, I think their thinking is different after they've seen that the fall of Lasho and Northeast Command, and I think Thai military's leadership in Bangkok are thinking differently from the civilian politician in Thailand. I think they look at the border, with the precarious border along the border, 2,400 kilometers, the Thailand and Myanmar share, and they realize that they have to talk to all stakeholders, because the Burmese military no longer control the border areas. The ethnic forces and the newcomers and new actors are the one who control the border trades, who control the territory, who control the populations. They are the ones who to engage with in terms of the trade, the healthcare, education. So because a lot of young people also move, kids move along the border areas, and then Thailand wanted to see them as a potential for the future potential. I think some Thai are thinking of providing them more access to education and some kind of legal status. And so these are the thinking that, we talk about humanitarian corridor, and then some people rephrase it, call it the humanitarian economic corridor. So like how to create a livelihood, how to create the jobs of people there, how to make sure that they have the future. Whatever they want to do, they can do with their regime change and their political thinking. But in reality, they have to have a promising future, and one they're living along the border areas, to work and to live, and to have education and to have access to healthcare, which is quite important, I think.
Thank you very much. On Thailand, we still have some questions. I will just do the first one. According to Thailand news, there will likely be an appointment of a new foreign minister in the new cabinet again, this time with a focus on investment, without any mention of the humanitarian crisis. What do you think in terms of what the Thai minister should focus on? This is one of the questions. There is another interesting question about what you know about the young people who have been recruited as soldiers through the conscription. Do you know anything about how are they doing? I mean, we know about the one who are trying to avoid the conscription, but do we know anything about the one that have been forced into the conscription? Another question regards the United States. So as you see, many different questions. The United States, do you think the US is getting more overtly in Myanmar, and what form do you think this will take? I am not sure this is the case, but is the US more visible in Myanmar, and if so, in what form? And the last on China, for now, because today you have provoked a lot of questions. China about the diplomacy of what you expect from the visit of China and this kind of support or semi-support given by the Chinese state at the moment to the military.
Thank you, Rosalia. I think the questions are great. I think questions are all important. I wish I had more time to. I wish I had more time to answer the Thailand question, because I really love these countries. I know a lot of friends live here, and Thai friends, and a lot of Burmese friends, and they were shocked to see that Thailand is so hospitable and friendly. And as well as they see there some form of discrimination, and also they also appreciate that they can live and work here and away from this regime. And otherwise, if they keep working inside the country as journalists or NGO activists, rather they have to live in prison. So they do appreciate Thailand, and without the Thai friends' understanding and their help, I don't think Burmese can live and work here, even including the Irrawaddy. So we do appreciate the Thailand and Thai people and Thai friends. So the question I understand is a new Thai foreign minister. I don't know whether he or she's being appointed. I don't know. I think previous government under the Secretary Zin, I think we saw the very inclusive and active foreign policy towards Burma, but it doesn't last long, sadly. And Foreign Minister, ex-Foreign Minister Pamperi and all these groups are working hard to, change the dynamic of the Thailand approach to Burma and trying to understand the complex reality on the ground. So we see a lot of headlines on Burma, and then they talk about inclusive and humanitarian corridor and the helping hands to the people along the border where the fighting took place in Mesot and Myawaddy areas, and the one that IDP people fled in Thailand, visibly trying to show that they're trying to help extend their help and assistance. But I'm worried that at the same time Thailand is very much heavily dependent on the energy. And still a lot of Thai energy, the companies, beverage companies, huge ones, stay working inside the country. And also they are also enjoying more in terms of privileges because of Western sanctions. And a lot of companies have left, but Thai companies are taking over this space and this vacuum, and they are more active. But also a lot of smaller companies also left because of the conditions and situation imposed when the regime is not workable. I mean, you can see that Japanese the chief executive was arrested and detained, recently been released. So a lot of unknown, but a lot of Korean, South Korean, and Japanese businessmen remain inside Yangon, are being interrogated again and again in Yangon for their business. So they don't understand why they're being investigated, why they're being interrogated. So I think, but at the same time, Thailand is being very pragmatic. I would say that, not to defend the Thailand, but Thailand is being very pragmatic in terms of looking at Myanmar as a lot of potential. Even under the Deng Xiaoping period, Aung San Suu Kyi period, Thailand's are very active in terms of engaging in the business sector and promoting it in Myanmar. So in terms of business, but now I think Thailand also don't want to left behind. They keep engaging with the regime as well as with the civilians, as well as with the others sectors, business sector, because they saw that the huge potential inside the country. If the countries open up again, at time will be the ones who won't miss the train. I think they are also preparing. At the same time, if you talk to Thai military leadership, if you talk to security analysis, and they are very worried about, they're very much concerned about the ongoing precarious situation inside the country and along the border areas. Not just about war and fighting and conflicts, but also the scam online and all these illicit trades, and then Chinese coming down from the north. And then, so I think Thais are really trying to to look at a much more broader perspective to see that how can Thailand, how can Thailand absorb the problem, as well as how can Thailand benefit from this conflict? How can Thailand be pragmatic and practical in dealing with the ongoing situation? Because situation is changing rapidly, very rapidly. Even 3 years ago, we were talking, I mean, every day we're covering the story from Burma. We cannot even catch up with the story. It's changing every day and every week. And then Thais are trying to catch up, trying to understand. But do they understand, those Bangkok politicians and bureaucrats and officials? I really doubt it. But they try to understand. They try to meet with the people like us and other people along the border areas and trying to sketch a new plan to deal with the ongoing political changes in Burma, and who are the new players along the border areas. Who are the authoritative people to work on the issue that I mentioned about health care and education and other, crimes, and it, not just political issues alone. So because they are becoming kingmakers, those in the border areas. These politicians, these are new actors that the Thailand and Thai even military realize that they have to talk to them. Or they have to create some kind of, I don't want to use the word buffer zone, they have to use some kind of area where they can set up a more friendly, more pragmatic, more practical relationship with those new actors along the border with the Kaya state, because now Kaya state, except for the Loico, there's a lot of areas that are now controlled by the PDF and the Kaya politician activists. So there are a lot of issues to cover along the area, as well as education and refugees issue. If you come to the south, and then we have a Karen and Shan. Of course, they are a huge issue. We just cover about conflicts, and then people come in and leave in. And then we coming down to the south again. We have a Karen, we have the Chinese casinos and scam online activities going on. And Thailand is also paying a lot of attention in that area. So I think Thailand is should be more realistic and pragmatic. Maybe it's not only the solution, but they have to work with other actors. This is where I think Bangkok, started realizing it. That's why we see more and more engagement with the other actors and between Thai and Burmese, not just with the regime. Regime is no longer indispensable. It's no longer indispensable. There are other actors, emerging newly actors that Thailand need to work with, has to work with. No, not just to narrowly focus on the security issue alone and an investment issue alone. And no, this is where the country is happening, either fragmented or whatever new Burma emerging. The Thailand country should be ready to work with. That's what we are telling our Thai friends. You should be ready to work with. You should be much more flexible. You should be much more adaptable to work with, because the regime may be gone tomorrow or next year. And at the time you are making friends with friends with alliance along the border area, because you need to secure the border areas. You just not about insurgents control, but also contain the diseases, the populations, and providing them and education, access to healthcare, so that when they become leaders in the future in all these territories, they will see Thailand as a friend, not as an enemy. That's the most important thing, I think. So that's the point that we are making to Thai friends, that you got to look at it. You got to be very open-minded and looking at it. That's why I even think that whoever comes into power in Thai government, I think the Thai military even thinking is much more, I think, different from the civilian politician. I think because not only the security perspective, they are looking at much more broader issue. So I think, health is important, migration, and labor department, they should be included in the national security, where, these issues are the key issue for Thailand, I think. Not just about, the group of insurgents and politicians working along the border area. There are huge population at tremendous potentials, and a lot of educated people are also living white collar Burmese, IT technicians, and a lot of young generation are here. this is a Thailand. Sometimes people, friends, have started seeing that this is an opportunity for them to work, for Thailand to absorb them, you know. So I think this is so important.
Yeah, I see you are passionate about this, but let's move to the next question as time is, so the question of the conscription.
I think with the absence of the U.S. policy, I think China becoming very, very assertive, which is very sad. And we are the oxygen, the air is being sucked by the Ukraine and the Middle East, and the issue of South China Seas and Taiwan, but they are not really the future issues. But I'm talking about Ukraine and the Middle East issues are the one that just gets so much attention, and Burmese are really, really frustrated that not enough attention or political support coming from the Washington D.C. and from the Brussels, which is the attention should be given, more attention should be given, more statements should be coming, more political will should be coming, investing in this crisis. Because at this time, a lot of Burmese said that if we push this time, the regime will collapse, will fail. But don't scare them with a balkanization or a fragmentation. Burma is always fragmented state anyway. So, but the point is, Burmese no longer want to be slave of this regime. If they do it one time, if the China come and give a support to the regime, if regime can survive for another 5 years with the sham elections or the fake election, then Burmese people said, "Oh no, we've been betrayed again and again. We were given a lip service again and again from the West. Not really help is not really coming." So I think we hope that this election in the U.S. will turn out something better, and there was a lot more policy changes maybe coming, bipartisan, because of the Burma issue is in the State Department is still giving a good amount of attention, but more action needed. Like the other week, there's a congressman and senator, they issue a statement, so Burma policy shouldn't be hijacked by the bureaucrats in Washington D.C. but should be controlled by, and I think should be guided by the politicians and congressmen, and it should be much more aggressive. Burmese can also be much more aggressive to tell the U.S. that they should do more on Burma, because with the absence of the West, I think China has become much more assertive, and the Burmese couldn't find any counterbalance. They couldn't find the most reliable partners. They feel like, oh, we are orphans. We are orphans. We are left alone. And maybe good to be orphans because you have to struggle yourself. You become a self-made people and a self-made revolution uprising, which is a good thing. The Burmese are benefiting from this also. Not so much influence, but also they need a political weighty politician, political from the West to come to counter it. Otherwise, China is the one who is now manipulating, exploiting everything. So jump into China. China missed the golden opportunities. If I say that, you can ask me, what are the golden opportunities? There are three things I would say, which I'm going to write next week. One is China should have prevented the coup in 2020 and 2021 if they knew it. Because of Chinese knew that Mao line was completely incompetent. They failed to prevent the coup. I think this is the one thing. It's a golden opportunity, they missed it. Because at the time, China saw Aung San Suu Kyi as a very pragmatic, their alliance and their friend. But they failed it. Second is, Chinese couldn't use the pressure, enough pressure to tell the Burmese leadership, incoming SAC leadership, that release Aung San Suu Kyi and hold their election or whatever as soon as possible. Now it's too late to use this pressure after 4 years. Third is now Chinese playing against each other. This is the worst case scenario now. Chinese playing with the other side, Chinese playing with this side, and they're fighting. it's become a China game because no one trusts China. China lost trust with everyone, but there's a lot of conflicts can stay continued. So China missed, I would say that Beijing missed the golden opportunity 3 times with the neighboring country, which is very important for China because of the gas pipeline and the railroad and access to Indian Ocean. Burma can be stable and have a good leadership, stable leadership, if China could help, but China doesn't really help. Miss all the trains. This is one of my thinking these days, that when I spoke to Chinese, policymakers or some friends, think tank groups in Beijing, I think they all missed the train because there are opportunities to stop the coup. There are opportunity to pressure Myanmar to retract and shorten this coup data. But now we are now into 4 years time, 4 years, and it's not going to go away. If China is making wrong decision to, as I suggested earlier, to give the backing, political backing to the regime, then we will see that the extension of the regime, it's not going to go away quickly. Then who will be blamed? China will be blamed. And Chinese interest and Chinese people inside the country, I don't think Myanmar can protect them.
No.
The long term, no way.
Very interesting view. So we look forward to your writing next week about,
thank you.
About this. Now the issue of conscription, can you say something about that? We have a few minutes left. So do we know anything about the people that have been forced to become? So
well, I think there's no peace. The regime is preparing to fight more. Conscription means they are going to defend the cities. So in February, they introduced a mandatory, conscription and the draft law that you have to serve in the army for 2 years, 3 years, until 5 years. That is for young people, they targeted. But this time, they are having establishing another security team, which is over 35 to 60. So if I'm in Burma, I will be eligible. I'll have to join the army, right? So they are going to arm them. They're going to train them. Then what we'll do? And they will be guarding the cities and townships and the villages. But those who are forcibly recruited, they're forced to join and they're forced to fight. So we have seen and talked to some young people who fled, who were in the service for a few months and finally they ran away. So they told us that, they provided the pension, the salaries are provided, but they could not stay there because they know that the death is coming. Because as soon as they finish the training, they send them to the front line, go and fight. So a lot of them have no experience in fighting. So I think a lot of them are fled or forced to stay, or there's an exchange program. If you are arrested, if you don't want to serve in the army, so you tell the village headman that I don't want to serve. The village headman will come ask you, okay, I need some kind of just amount of money and a bribe, so that they give a bribe, they will give you another person replacement, so that replacement go and work in the army because they're poor and they don't have any other alternative. So that kind of thing, forced conscription also taking place, but not only in Burmese army, but also in ethnic areas, like MNDA, or TNLA, or SSPB, or RCSS, even in Karen, KNU, KNLA, all ethnic groups also doing a very aggressive recruitment campaign lately. So because they also need to recruit a lot of young people to serve in their armies, as well as the regime is doing it. Even in Rakhine, shockingly, they are recruiting Rohingya, at least 3,000 Rohingya being recruited into Pusoti, Malaysia. So that recruitment is going on the whole country, not only in the Myanmar military side.
Yeah, so very worrisome. Of course, also very young people, even below 18 years, there are news that are also enrolled in various armed groups. So this is, of course, a lot of concern, but I can see you have a lot of passion still and hopes. We have still many questions, including about what is the impact of the situation of Bangladesh, over Myanmar. What about the Burmese that have been repatriated back to Burma as the result of immigration? Because Thailand sometimes, okay, they see the opportunity, but sometimes they also like to do some demonstration of force and send deport people back to Myanmar. So what is happened to them? So there are many other concerns that are expressed in the question for you to reflect on, but unfortunately today we don't have. There was another question also about whether Thailand is planning to use to support the military to do the census. So the concern is about the census, which was done before. It's going to be done for the election or in preparation of the fake election. So that are some of the questions that are still here, but unfortunately they are not. At the moment today, we cannot answer, but we hope you can answer them, plus whatever come news in the next episode. So we will plan more or less at the end of September, again, a new update with Aung Zaw. Aung Zaw will be with us for a number of weeks, hopefully, so you can enjoy his passion and knowledge also the next time. Thank you very much. Any last words?
Well, I think election is not a reality. If you look at the ground situation, election talking about next year, election of what kind of election are we talking about? Is it all inclusive? We had an election in 2020. It has been taken away. People feel robbed overnight. So why election again, right? So I think what about the neighboring countries are trying to do? India, particularly China and Thailand. China doesn't have an election anyway, so they're trying to help the census and the election, which seems to be quite ridiculous. But I think they're trying to poke around. I think they are not really helping, but they want to understand that what is the existential strategy, how the regime is going to live and exist. I don't see them as they are really supporting the regime. They're trying to poke around and see the pulse of the regime and the blood pressure of the regime and checking out the regime. You say that what is your condition? What are you going to do? So I don't think election is really realistic next year. So thank you all, and I hope to catch up with you all next time. And we are working very hard. Also, I want to say thank you for your support. Independent media is working very hard, and then we all need your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And indeed, you can support the Irrawaddy. If you go to their page, you can always make a donation. We thank also Mizzima for being our partner, and also Ajar, who is collaborating with us on this series of updates and enable us to continue to do such important. I think besides the issue of informing the public, it's also documenting all the changes that have been happening since the very beginning of the coup. And hopefully soon we will not need to know to do it, but for now we will continue to do it. Yes?
Rosalia, I think Burmese people inside are very happy to see that supports are, people are still talking about them. Outside people are still talking about them, support them. So that's very important. No matter what, even if you're talking and people are happy inside it, they were paying attention. That's very important. So thank you very much, Ali.
Thank you. So see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.